Hey, it's Brian Terrian here. You are about to listen to an interview with attorney James Mitchell Brown, who has 43 years of experience working with Social Security and has a high level of exposure in Congress. In this interview snippet, Jim shares 4 points that I'm in hopes will help you understand how Congress looks at the disability process and why they want to cut off your benefits, what they think of the entire disability process, and some of the conversations they've had to put limits on it, like a 3-year limit or a cap on the total amount that you can be paid. You'll also learn in this interview snippet, if you're going to contact your representative or Congress, who to get to in those respective offices. So please listen to this interview if you're looking to get your benefits, especially if you're on your benefits, just so that you have the awareness that your check is not on autopilot. You have people have the opportunity to review you, and they are. So we encourage you to continue to stay tuned in, of course, to our station here or as a membership so that you know what you need to know to keep your check. Enjoy the interview. Thanks.
There's a separate disability fund. Part of that money, about 1.5%, goes into a disability fund to pay if you become disabled. And some people in Congress treat it like a handout, like everybody is phony, and they don't want you to have it. Mick Mulvaney, who was the last president's chief of staff, told me, "We don't need Social Security. I'll take care of my grandmother and you take care of yours." If we all had $50 million, we could do that.
Sure.
But it's not that way. And there are people who are insensitive, who are uncaring, and they don't realize that Social Security is a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them if they just sat in my waiting room, they could see that nobody wants disability.
Yeah.
Most people would rather be working, would rather be getting their paycheck, seeing people every day. And disability is not something anybody wants to have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jim, you've spent a lot of time in and around Congress. Have you talked to them about, maybe putting the brakes on this or making any changes? Or
I have, and it used to be easier when Republicans and Democrats would talk to each other. Clay Shaw was a Republican chair of the Social Security Committee, who worked with the Democratic ranking minority, and they did some things together to make the system better. Back in 2000, Chuck Grassley was chair of the Senate committee and worked with Max Baucus, who was the Democrat on it. Today, they don't talk to each other, and it makes it more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
One person in the Senate thinks that you should receive a maximum of 3 years of disability. And after that 3 years, you shouldn't be entitled to any further disability in your lifetime. Somebody else thinks you shouldn't be able to get any more out of it than you pay in. So if you're 25 years old and you're in a horrible motorcycle accident and become a quadriplegic, you could get benefits for 3 years and then nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah.
There's just an uncaring attitude, and not by a majority, but by a lot, because people in Congress get more calls about Social Security than any other issue.
Is that right?
It is. And
is that Social Security across the board or disability, the disability component?
Across the board, but disability right first. Everybody in Congress has somebody in their staff who takes all the Social Security questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to call your representative or your senator, ask for the person who deals with Social Security. Usually you don't get a very good response. Once in a while you do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a terrible system. In the mid-'80s, I used to give speeches around the country saying that we should raise the Social Security tax so that people are taxed on their full earned income instead of a cap on it. And we should raise the age for full retirement benefits to 70. The Democrats wouldn't raise the age. The Republicans wouldn't raise the tax. Social Security would have been solvent at 2250 if we had done that. Mm-hmm. So-called crises. Mm-hmm. People on one side of the aisle continually refer to Social Security as an entitlement.
Yeah.
That's why they want to try and cut people off. They want to terminate your benefit because it's an entitlement. But you paid for it. You were taxed for it. Mm-hmm. It's not an entitlement. It's something you paid for and you're entitled to if you meet the test for it. And when I started representing people, 8% of the people trying to get disability hired a representative. Today, it's close to 90%. And yet they're paying the same amount of people. They're just putting people through hell before they let them get it.
Yeah.
And they're making them go through another hell to keep their benefit that they deserve